This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Coming up on today's program, Riley Smith will be talking with Greg McBride from Allendale as they'll go over today's WASDE report. It was a big report day, and we're going to get to that over the course of today and tomorrow. And I will be talking with a fellow farm broadcaster in Minnesota to find out what's going on with our neighbor to the north as far as them getting into the fields. We'll also take a look at that ag weather outlook to see what field work's going to be possible here for the next 24 hours. We'll also have a check of your markets, and that's coming up right now. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we've had a very busy day in the trade today. We had a couple reports come out, and we're now at the end of Thursday's trade, and we'll turn to Brian Splitt of agmarket.net. Well, Brian, we had the WASDE report come out. What did we see coming out of the markets today?
Well, I think the leader of the market today was wheat. Both the Chicago and Kansas City varieties were limit up at one point. The spring wheat also limit up, which is a 60-cent limit. The other two have 70-cent limits. And the big miss of the report today on wheat was that the trade estimates for hard red were actually about 95 million bushels more than what the USDA showed us. So that's a miss by roughly 14%, which is a huge miss. And that just shows that the hard red crop out there is really suffering. So you compound that with the inability to get the spring wheat in the ground, and we've got some problems in wheatland right now. Now, as far as corn goes, the big surprise there was that the USDA actually took the initiative to stray from the yield number that they would typically use, their February outlook forum number. So since 2014, USDA has used that February outlook forum yield number. Even in 2019, when we had flooding across the majority of the Midwest, and I would argue that that was more extreme than what we're seeing this year as far as delayed plantings. But even in 2019, they maintained the trend line yield for the May report and waited until June. So we did have corn higher, got close to contract highs with a high of 755.5 today, contract high 757. So right back up to those levels. Soybeans, that was lightly higher, really just supported by corn and wheat gains. But the report itself did show some production that was larger than what the pre-trade estimates were looking for.
Now, we also got reports from Brazil out of Conab there. Did we see any surprises on that report?
Well, I think something that, people that look at the numbers are already kind of giggling about is the expectation for a Brazilian bean crop for 22-23, all the way up to 149 million tons. And that's the habit of the USDA. We started expecting about 144 million tons this year, and now we're down to 125 million tons because of the La Nina and the drought that we had this winter. So, but beyond that, we did have the some of the Argentina numbers reduced a little bit, but no major changes to the South American balance sheets that I would say are a major surprise.
And what about on the livestock front? I mean, I know cattle and hogs have been on some shaky ground. What are we seeing today?
Yeah, that shaky ground, fell through today, and we saw everything sharply lower. Nearby cattle, live cattle down roughly $2. We had these feeders down sharply over $3. Took out some of the lows that we had on that last major spike low on August feeders. So right back down near contract lows. And it's just hard when you've got two different headwinds on the feeder cattle market. Number one being the stock market. We're continuing to see new lows for this move in the stock market today. The NASDAQ, for example, when you think about the lows that we made during COVID, and then the recent highs, record high prices, we've retraced 50% of that whole move as of today's lows. So big moves here in the equity trade, and that's continuing to put pressure on livestock. And then, of course, with the increase in both corn and wheat costs today, in the ongoing dryness that we're seeing, that just really is reducing the overall demand outlook for feeder cattle. So a lot of negativity there. And you look at the hogs, another large down day there, down over $3 on June. We're in the upper 90s now, so we've solidly broke through 100. We've talked about this head and shoulder top in the June hogs, and today we did reach the downside objective. Now that doesn't mean that the market needs to stop there and go back up, but what that pattern would measure to for a downside objective has been met.
All right. And of course, we all know there's some outside market influences as well, like oil and also with the dollar. And how did those things react today?
Actually, it was a quiet day in oil. You had some movement in some of the products. So RBOB, which is your unleaded gasoline, was up all day. And then we had heating oil, which would be your diesel fuel proxy, was lower today. So some movements in the spreads, you call it the crack spread. But overall, crude oil stayed near unchanged for a lot of the session. But big move in the dollar today. We blasted through 104. We had some major peaks in the dollar in previous years, just below 104. And the high that we had in March of 2020, when we had a little bit of a short squeeze on the dollar, as globally there was a shortage of dollars when COVID came, we blasted through that high and we got up nearly to 105 here. So this is a major break to the upside to the dollar. That had silver sharply lower. Just a month ago, not even, we had silver around $26.50 an ounce. We're about $6 less than that right now. And gold right back down to its long-term uptrend on the June contract at this 1820-ish area. So $30 lower on gold. And we've been seeing a lot of these cryptocurrencies getting sold aggressively. And I think there's kind of that idea where you've got the NASDAQ leading us lower. And I think the people that are investing in companies like Tesla and other tech stocks also tend to be tech savvy and into other things like NFTs and crypto. So I think the fact that you've got this NASDAQ leading the market down, that's causing selling in cryptos to pay for losses there. Now you've got major selling in crypto that's bringing other things down. So it's all kind of feeding on itself right now, Dustin.
All right. Well, a lot of great information as always. Brian, if people want to get in touch with agmarket.net to talk about some of their marketing plans, how do they get in touch?
Our general phone line is 844-4AG-MARKET. So that's 844-424-6758. You can reach me directly at 815-665-0463. And check us out online at www.agmarket.net.
All right, Brian, we thank you for the insight as always, and we'll talk again real soon.
Sounds great, Dustin. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That again was Brian Splitt of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at how those numbers finished up, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. July corn was up 3 at 791.5. December up 17.25 at 753. July soybeans up 7 at 1613.75. November up 8.25 at 1480.5. Soy meal down $1.90 at 396 even. Soy oil down 93 cents at 82.52. Chicago wheat was up 65.75 at 1178.75. Minneapolis wheat up 60 at 1316 even. Kansas wheat up 69.5 at 1270 even. Oats were up 21.25 at 624.5. August live cattle were down $1.87 at 132.77. August feeders down $3.47 at 166.52. Lean hogs down $3.37 at 97.47. Pork cutouts down $3.32 at 103.80. Class 3 milk 6 cents higher at 24.95. And that's been your Ag Market Recap here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsors, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, Riley Smith will join us to talk about that WASDE report with Greg McBride of Allendale. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
This is AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, it was a big report day today. We had the export sales report. We had the CONAB report, which gives us some South American numbers, but we also had the all-important WASDE report, and this means that those world acreage supply and demand estimates are coming out, and we're getting our first look at what the 2022 crop is going to do, and we got a few surprises coming from USDA, and to hear more, we go right now to Riley Smith.
Thanks, Dustin. Today was the release of the much-anticipated May WASDE report, and while it wasn't necessarily a big change in the corn and soybean markets, we did see a big impact in the wheat markets. We're talking here with Allendale commodity broker Greg McBride to go over a bit on today's WASDE report that we got. So, Greg, what did we see first off a bit on the corn and soybean side?
Really nothing that was out of the ordinary. We kept ending stocks for old crop corn at 1.44 billion. We did lower old crop soybeans to 235 million. That was in line, maybe slightly higher than the analysts were looking for, but it was still a drop nonetheless. We did see the export numbers increase a little bit. That was expected. So nothing out of the ordinary on that side of things. I think the biggest surprise was on the new crop side of things with regard to what the USDA did with yield. They increased our yield, they decreased our yield from 181. That was what they gave us on the February forum, and dropped it to 177. That's in line with what we did last year. So a little bit early to be making a major change like that, but I guess when you look at the planting delays we've had, and maybe even look out further to what we could be expecting in the Western Corn Belt drought, that's a good start, at least for them.
Right, and one thing that was a little more reactive in the marketplace is we saw those wheat prices jump up. So what happened in that market?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise as well. They had looked for a slight increase on the old crop wheat stocks or ending stocks, and they actually got a drop. So they were about 30 to 40 million bushels below where the expectation was. We came in at 655 million bushels, and it was the same idea on the new crop side of things for wheat, where they were looking for somewhere in the 660 million bushel range, and they came in at 619. So it's quite a bit of strength shown in that wheat market on what looks to be disappointing numbers expected for harvest this year, and then maybe even the same thing for next year.
Now, of course, we had seen recently, especially in these past few days, the markets were kind of timid, anticipating that WASDE report to come out. Now that it's come out, are we going to see a bit more of a shift to really focusing on those planting delays and the weather in general?
Yeah, definitely. As we move forward, the focus here in the very short term is obviously looking at the rain that's coming across in the 1 to 5 day for the northern plains and maybe parts of the eastern Corn Belt, and then the 6 to 10 day forecast that has rains pretty well across Iowa and Illinois. So if they haven't gotten any planting done this week where it's been nice and clear, it doesn't look good for the next 2 weeks. And that's a big concern. We look back to, say, 2019, where we had similar planting issues and we saw big prevent plant numbers. That could be the same thing this year. Obviously you have the situation where you could switch over to some beans if you haven't already treated acres, but I think at this point there is going to be some big concern about big prevent plant numbers, and then as we talked about in the longer term, looking out to whatever NOAA tells us next week with their 3-month outlook. When you get that June, July, August forecast, if it's dry, especially for that Western Corn Belt and the plains, that could continue to drive prices higher. If you've got problems with that wheat that just came out of dormancy, or you didn't plant that those northern plains spring wheat acres, we could continue to see the wheat numbers and the wheat prices pull corn up with it.
Right, and as we continue to focus more and more on planting, especially these delays, a lot of farmers probably have their hands hovering over that panic button a little bit. So what advice do you have for them as far as WASDE is concerned, just going through this situation?
Yeah, with the respect to maybe the panic button, I don't think it's necessarily a panic button. We do see, maybe we're starting to get past the point of big ideas for old crop prices. We've already seen some very good prices. We're still at very good levels right now. So I think the biggest thing for the producer that has corn or beans left in the bin is to get those priced appropriately now, and continue to get those moved before we get to, say, the end of the July option period, which is at the very end of June. When it comes to new crop, at this point, we do have very good prices. We're well above the spring insurance levels, so you can be making sales. I don't necessarily think you have to rush to sell everything out, especially if we have maybe some concerns about dryness. So I would be looking at maybe getting some light sales on in new crop, but really just kind of holding back a little bit. And then as we start to get a better feel for the way that the summer weather is going to set up, we may be wanting to get more aggressive either with cash sales or getting some hedge positions in place.
That again was Allendale commodity broker Greg McBride here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith.
Thanks, Riley. Now let's take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, the great philosopher Colonel Sherman Potter once said, it's hot enough to melt the spots off a Pinto out there, and he's not wrong. It's been a hot day and arguably the hottest one of this heat wave that we've had, but it looks like some relief may be around the corner. How much and how much that's going to come with moisture, we'll have to find out from the National Weather Service right now. Well, as you can see, it was a hot one again today. Highs in the low to mid 90s, maybe even some upper 90s in a few locations, as this was probably the hottest day of this heat wave. Now, tonight we're going to see skies clear up, but we'll still start to see some storms move in. Some of those could be severe, and we'll see temperatures in the upper 50s to the upper 60s off into the east. Now, tomorrow, thunderstorms will linger from west to east, but they'll start to break away for some sunny skies and some cooler temperatures. We'll see highs in the upper 70s actually in the west to the upper 80s in the east. Now taking a look at the affiliate weather map, we see tomorrow sunny skies in 78 in Cherokee. Shenandoah looking for thunderstorms to break up and sunshine to come out in a high of 81. Des Moines, those thunderstorms will take a little longer to push away in a high of 83. Same with Waterloo, those thunderstorms will hang around in a high of 82. Albany, thunderstorms pushing off throughout the day in a high 84. Clinton going to be the hot spot tomorrow with 88 degrees and thunderstorms hanging out through most of the day. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliates. That's been a check of your ag weather outlook. Coming up after this short break, I'll talk with Joe Gill of KASM Radio in Albany, Minnesota. We talk about Minnesota's crop conditions, their planting conditions, even some issues they've got going on with dairy and the fact that they're losing about 2 dairies a week. This is Ag Matters PM.
As we approach planting season, make sure you stay safe and share the road with your local farmers. Slow-moving tractors with large planters occupy a lot of space on the road, so stay patient and follow at a distance of around 50 feet. You should never, ever try to pass them at a bridge, intersection, hill, or curve. It's far better than putting yourself or someone else at risk. So please, stay safe and remember to tip your hat to your local farmer this planting season. This message was brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, we're going to try every so often to talk with some fellow farm broadcasters around the country to find out what's going on in their neck of the woods. Just like Iowa, other areas do influence what happens with our crops, with our inputs, and even with our marketing prices. So today we're talking with Joe Gill of KASM Radio in Albany, Minnesota, and we're going to find out what's going on in central Minnesota. So we're back here on Ag Matters PM, and we're talking today with a fellow farm broadcaster up in Minnesota, in Albany, Minnesota. Look at my Minnesota's coming out in my accent already. Talking to Joe Gill at KASM. He's also the president-elect of the NAFB. Joe, thanks for taking some time to visit with us today.
Well, glad to be in the program and look forward to the visit today.
So it wouldn't be two Midwesterners talking first if we didn't ask, how's the weather up there? How are things looking for getting planting going in Minnesota?
And I should start by saying, well, don't you know? Well, weather, it's wet. Last 24 hours here, we've had areas with rainfall anywhere from a 3/4 inch. Biggest rainfall I had on Thursday morning was 4 3/4 inches of rain. Getting reports of hail. We've had some wind damage over the last week. So a lot of folks still waiting not only to plant, but to work up any fields or even get manure hauled. They've still been stalled on doing that. So it's been a oddly weird spring, and all of a sudden a lot of folks are finding themselves getting late putting things in.
Well, I mean, I know Minnesota, growing up, we'd plant in early May, but you're starting to think about the 15th is this weekend. That's starting to get up against the gun just a little bit up there. And like you said, manure's not even going on either. But I know here in Iowa, we've been dreaming of that water you guys are getting, and we've gotten some rain, but we're now to the point where we might see mud balls flying in the fields, is because guys are going to have to get those seeds mudded in if they have to.
Yeah, it's weird how things change, because we had it took a while for that ground to heat up to get to 50 degrees at 3 inches. And we spoke to some of our area agronomists and such, and they always mark the 20th on the calendar. They say when you get by May 20th, then you have to start recalculating maturity dates for your corn. And then you have to reassess maybe some plans you had, but they've been hesitant to do so. And we saw those soil temps warm up nicely here at 6 a.m. early in the week on Monday. We were at 50 degrees already. So it seems like the recipe is ready. It's just a matter of can you drive out there?
Yeah, and now I don't know about for you guys, but we had spring for one day on Saturday, and then we went straight into summer. And now we're looking at it cooling off just a bit, but now they're talking rain to come right back. And that window we thought that was going to be wide open about a week ago doesn't look like it's going to be open as wide as we thought. Are you guys still looking for rain to keep coming up this weekend as well?
Yeah, we're hoping rain today to be done, and then it's going to dry up, but we're not going to be very warm. So that's the weird thing. We're looking at middle 80s today, Thursday, and then our daytime highs are only going to be in the 60s. So we're not going to get really super warm weather here. And, some folks too, when we talk crops, you talk alfalfa, some of the folks got their first cutting at this time or by the end of May last year, and I can't foresee that happening this year.
Now, of course, you guys have in your neck of the woods also a lot of dairy up there. I mean, what kind of things are going on? We don't get as much dairy talk down here, but we still have a respectable amount. But what are things looking like up in your neck of the woods there?
It's kind of a two-sided coin, because we're seeing class 3 milk futures anywhere from $23 to $25, which they haven't been there for quite a few years. So a lot of farmers are happy there in the dairy side, but it's the input side where if you're buying your feed, you're buying your corn, if you have to buy some hay, that's where the stumbling block is coming into play. And on one side too, we're seeing a lot of our smaller dairies sell at this time. It's unfortunate, but I'd say at least 2 a week, maybe 3 a week at some times, seeing some of these 20 to 60 cow head dairy, sometimes up to 100 cow dairies selling. And it's a multitude of issues, whether they're on a glimpse of retiring, or maybe they're just saying now is the best time because they're buying their feed. We're seeing prices for dairy cows skyrocket anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 by the head. Dairy springers have jumped up to $2,000 and $2,500. So I think those farmers who were thinking about getting out, those numbers are pushing them over the edge, saying, yeah, now is the time to do so.
We'll be hearing more from Joe Gill tomorrow, as he's also the president-elect of the National Association of Farm Broadcasters. And we'll talk about that organization and what we do in that organization. That'll be coming up tomorrow on AM PM. But right now, we're at the end of today's show. We thank you for joining us. You can find all our content at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and also find our video content as well as past episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget our twice daily market podcasts. They're free of charge, and you can find them on Google, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IRN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.